Perfect. Thank you. Namaste, DCG.
Namaste.
Thanks for joining on time, DCG and Anuji. Please bear with us. We're just waiting for some more people to join. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you.
Namaste, Mukunji.
Namaste, Srikanji.
I'm just curious, Anuji, where did you hear about this seminar?
I heard it from a friend.
Okay. And they passed along the link for the meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we were at, I'm from Houston.
Okay.
So earlier I attended a session at Sharadamba Temple.
Okay.
So probably, and that workshop was run by that parent who passed on this link to me.
Okay. Was it somebody from Austin or?
I think the same team went to Austin too.
Okay. I see. And DCG, where did you hear about this?
I actually heard it from the Austin Samskrita Kendram group.
Okay.
Yeah, because I took a class a while back.
I know. I recognize your name. Yes. Yeah. Very good to have you back. Yeah.
Thank you very much for
Yeah.
Showing this off.
I see Rohit join. Namaste, Rohit.
Namaste, Rohit.
Namaste, ji.
Yeah, we're just waiting for a couple more minutes and then we'll get started. Okay. Thank you for your patience.
I see one more person join. Namaste, Surekha ji.
Namaste. I'm working in Agastya Gurukul. Hello.
Hello.
You
Yes,
can hear me,
yes.
right? You can hear me?
Yes, yes, we
Surekha
can
ji,
hear
we can
you.
hear
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
Namaste, Kalyan ji.
Namaste, Srikanji.
Yeah. Thanks for joining. 30 seconds. We'll get started. Okay. Let's get started. We have somewhat of a quorum here. There's a few members from the Knowledge Systems Incubator team, and we have a few attendees. Thank you all for joining wherever you heard about this seminar from. It's wonderful to have you all. And what we hope to do today is to give you an overview of this KSI initiated training plan. This is expected to be a kind of a holistic, broad IKS training to give people a glimpse of what IKS offers, and then we have divided this into multiple parts, and I'll walk through the structure of the program in some time. The second half of this program, we do want people to specialize and kind of run with the topic of interest, and there will be, because it's kind of an incubator idea, we will be enabling people with both research opportunities as well as entrepreneurship opportunities. But in order to do that, we have this front half loaded with a lot of information and training to give you like a broad stroke across the IKS world. So with that, we'll get started. My name is Shrikant. With us here from the KSI team, we have Arunji. He's logged in as Knowledge Systems Incubator. We have Mukundji, and we also have Ashwinji. Okay. The talk itself is divided into these four broad parts. The first one is, what is it that what is the nature of the problem that we encounter today at a very high level? And then what, in our view, is IKS? What is KSI, which is kind of a play of words, play of the alphabets. IKS transforming into KSI, but that's our team, Knowledge Systems Incubator. And then who are we partnering with? What is our goal here? Okay, and towards the end, we'll talk about the plan itself, give you some details, how it's going to be structured, what are some of the logistics there, and what are the expected outcomes from the program. Okay, with that, one thing I want to do is try to keep my presentation to about 20 to 25 minutes, and then we'll have a Q&A after that. So some of the key problems that we face as Hindus, as a community, as individuals, we've kind of highlighted some 5 broad problems here. Obviously, you could dig deeper and you could find the underlying causes of all of these, and a lot of analysis has been done. But if you look at it from a high level, right, we have concerns about how we are going to, as parents, pass on our inherited knowledge. How do we get this heritage passed down to the next generation, especially when we have fragmented information about things, and we are all very segmented, right? We are siloed into our sampradayas, our communities, our jatis, and your states, your language. All kinds of identity markers have kind of divided us, and we don't find that unifying thread. We don't see beyond certain frameworks that have been established on top of us, right? So passing on information, especially when we are not extremely clear about what the knowledge system is a challenge for us. The second thing is the kids themselves, right? At certain ages, they're extremely interested, they're excited about the stories and so on. After a certain point, they start to question things, and it's like, I'm not really, super interested in this. And, they start to associate this information with something else. And, it kind of gets muddled and becomes a little bit hard. Mukunji,
Srikanth, sorry to interrupt. I think, can you go into the presentation mode? I think the font is not very legible, and the gentleman asked us to.
Oh, is that right? Yeah, I had kind of reduced. Is that better?
Can you go to the slideshow mode on the top right?
I might, but I'll have to unshare and share again because I was sharing a window. So give me just a second. Let me see if I can do that. Give me just a moment, everyone. Yeah. If I go to the slideshow mode. Okay. I'm able to do this. So let me share my entire screen now.
Yeah, much better. Thank you.
Okay, so I cannot see any other screen right now, Mukunji and Arunji. So you'll have to drive everything else. Okay, I can't even see who's raising their hands and so on. Okay, so no problem, no pull from the kids. That's problem number 2. Third one is there is such a thing called as Hindu phobia. How much ever we want to kind of rationalize it or deny it, it doesn't matter. There is Hindu phobia, Hindumesia. All these things have been studied systematically in by different researchers and different organizations, and there's sufficient evidence for this. So there is something to be dealt with on that front as well. The fourth problem is there is a ton of Hindus in this country now, sufficiently in the critical mass is there, but the Hindu focus services barely exist, right? We don't have people like counseling with a Hindu view, care providers, right? Preschool, after school, and so on. Now we do have some things called as Sunday schools, which are you find different organizations kind of do this. There's some language-based classes on Saturdays and Sundays and so on, right? But there is no coherent Hindu focused services available for us, right? And then Hindu chaplains and so on. The fifth problem is the schools completely lack the Indic perspective, right? A quick browse through social studies textbooks of middle school and high school kids will tell you that it's very evident that there is a very there's a repetition of the colonial tropes about India, and there is casting us in a certain mold, and then explaining everything with that as the foundation. So we need to kind of we have some work to do on that front too, to bring our perspectives to kind of change the gaze and make sure that people look at us also from our perspective, right? We need to have that voice. We need to bring that perspective into mainstream education so that the next generation kind of benefits. Okay. And then, of course, Indic researchers, there's a dearth of Indic researchers. All the researchers that are doing Indic work, at least in the Western academia, they're all like, they come from a certain school or certain, framework again. So we need to kind of democratize that a little bit more. Okay, so can we address all these problems by leveraging IKS, right? So this is the key question, right? And the answer to that is an overwhelming yes in our point of view, right? We look at IKS as this broad knowledge base. IKS again stands for Indic Knowledge Systems. And this chart here doesn't do complete justice to the vast amounts of knowledge and literature that is available, but it kind of gives you a glimpse of all the key blocks, right? So for us, IKS is the sum total of all the knowledge that has been produced over millennia in Bharat. Okay, so we have literary sources, non-literary sources, of course. We have, as everyone knows, some of the old texts that are Vedas and those based on Vedas, including the Vedangas, and then there's the Chaturdasha Vidyasthanas. Vidyasthanas is basically all these different points of learning that includes art, that includes shastras, and so on. And then there's also the mantras and so on, right? So if you kind of sweep the screen here from left to right, we have a whole lot of non-literary sources, which are because our tradition was primarily oral, and it doesn't have to be in Sanskrit, right? There's a lot of knowledge has been produced in other languages that coexisted with Sanskrit. So we have that stream, and then we have the basic sciences that include all this, math and Jyotisha Shastra, and which is the Nakshatra Vidya, is basically studying the sky and understanding the times and so on. And then we have Rasayana, Ayurveda, then Vriksha Veda, and so on. And then you have the applied sciences, which includes architecture and metallurgy and so on. And of course, there's a whole a set of shastras that are written that would fall in what we call humanities today, which includes linguistics and law, and like Niti Shastra and Artha Shastra and so on. And then at the very last block here, that stem there, is the mantras and yagas, which is referring to the karma kanda of our culture. Our culture was not hey, just sit and study and go intellectualize, right? There's a lot of action oriented knowledge, which is, you can kind of group them into what something more rudimentary in English called rituals, but it's a lot more than rituals. It's not just like blindly doing things, right? There's a engagement with the actual object of your task, and trying to understand how that allows you to discipline yourself, focus and concentrate, and kind of build that chitta shuddhi in order to imbibe more knowledge. Okay, so there's a whole mantropasana, puja vidhis, and homas, and agama shastras, and tantra, and everything in that stream. So this, and again, want to emphasize that not everything is in Sanskritam. Sanskritam is, by and large, it was used to communicate all this knowledge, but different languages, even though not necessarily their modern form, but in ancient times, we have texts in all the different ancient languages, right? This chart was kind of borrowed and modified from the textbook that's been mentioned at the bottom, the one by Dr. B. Mahadevan. He's a professor at IIM Bangalore and is very active in contribution to the IKS ideas, and kind of building that into the mainstream in Bharatam right now. So how vast is it? There's, given all the variety of subjects and the time that has elapsed while that subject had to be preserved and passed on, there's no second thoughts about how big this is, right? It's tremendously big. In fact, according to a 2009 study, that pie chart, right, it shows that we have cataloged about 10% of the manuscripts that were available in Sanskritam, right? The other 90% has to be kind of worked on and cataloged, and you have to decode it, you have to find out what stream it belongs to, and put it in the right bucket and so on. In comparison, look at the small sliver of knowledge base that is available in Greek and Latin, right? On the left, you have this picture of this monastery in Tibet, which contains all these pandulipis, right? All these documents that were transmitted from Bharatam to Tibet about 1,000 years back. Right? You can just see this is one monastery, and this used to happen a lot, right? Students used to come from China and Tibet and used to take back a lot of information and so on, right? They used to have horses and donkeys and mules carry all the stuff. This is all documented, right? So this is just a wall of all the documents from the IKS knowledge base, right? And this is the pie chart does not even include other languages. It's basically just Sanskritam, right? So why IKS, right? Now we know that it is vast. It contains a variety of information. It preserves the knowledge that has led to what we are today, right? For good or for bad. Let's assume it's all for our good. Otherwise, we wouldn't have survived, right? Assault after assault after assault. There was, and knowledge has been preserved, right? We can go trace our lineage back, hundreds of generations, right? So if it's good, right, are we really taking ownership of it? The answer is a clear no right now, right? We know that the yoga market, right, it's been kind of burgeoning for the last 25, 30 years, maybe even for longer. And we own a very, very small fraction of that market, right? If you look at the leftmost bar over there, it's like the global market. It's value in billions of dollars. And the one next to it, the middle, is a very, very small fraction of that, right? If we don't take ownership, somebody else will. Right? There's no question about that. In fact, all our mind sciences, right, they're being researched upon. There's this amazing professor at Stanford called Professor Huberman, Andrew Huberman, who is actually kind of building all these things, all the experiences and everything that's been kind of listed, not in the modern scientific lingo, but all the experiences and the practice and how you get into those states and come out and control your kind of consciousness. All that stuff has been documented in our shastras and transmitted through the rishis and so on, and people know it in pockets in Bharatam. Right? People have not done a systematic study for whatever reason, but it's all coming back, right? Those things they're being deemed valuable for humanity. So there is a lot of research that's going on. So the point here is that, hey, if there is IKS, and if we are in closer proximity to IKS compared to some other groups of people, why not kind of step up and take ownership, right? Of course, there is there's tons of other benefits, but at a minimum, let's do this, right? So with this, right, so this was the we kind of listed some of the problems. We said, okay, we have all this knowledge. The next thing is, how do we kind of use this and address those problems that we spoke about in the first slide, right? So that's where KSI comes in, Knowledge Systems Incubator. It's an organization we've started, and the idea here is to focus on gaps and opportunities and kind of fill those, address the opportunities, and leverage all this IKs and the Hindu knowledge that is available, and kind of disseminate it in a way where people can immediately start using it and spread it. Okay, and how is it different from attending a university and just getting a degree in Indic social studies or something like that, right? It is very different, because what we are trying to do is there is hardly any focus on Indic humanities. Okay, and the Indians have very little control over it right now, especially in the US academia. So there is almost no content focused on Indic humanities. So that'll be one of our points of focus. There's a lot of resources for Vedanta, Gita, and getting together and reciting certain stotrams and sahasranamams and so on, but not as much attention is being paid to the Laukika subjects. Laukika means, the normal day-to-day, the common man subjects like, Ganita, Vijnana, Nakshatra Vidya, Ayurveda, and so on in a systematic way. Of course, there are Ayurveda practitioners. Of course, there are yoga practitioners. But somehow things have not kind of come together. And, when we think of yoga, we put it in a certain bucket. We think of Ayurveda, you put it in a certain bucket, right? What we are going to do is we're going to show you through this training plan that everything that we see as an issue or a problem to tackle, especially in the Indic humanities area, they all can be addressed and can be looked upon in a holistic way when you have knowledge of Ganita, Vijnana, Yoga, Ayurveda, and so on. Okay, and keeping that in mind, our course has been constructed. Okay, and then if you look at the third bullet here, right, this is extremely important. We severely lack Hindu-focused products and services. There's almost no startups in this domain, so that'll be one of our focus areas. Huge shortage of teachers that can actually jump in and kind of take one of these subjects and dig deep into it and kind of disseminate it to the crowd. And because you don't have great teachers or people who have spent time on any one or more of these subjects, it immediately leads to us not having any influence or being able to counter anything in the school systems. So that, there's a direct correlation there. So parents and kids, they need to have systematic tools, right? This, kids' confidence gets built and they're able to defend themselves because it's like, hey, you don't, your culture didn't do any math. Everything came from Renaissance Europe or something like that, right? It is truly something. I'm kind of speaking facetiously here, but this is truly the image that a lot of people have about themselves. I'm talking about Bharatiyas, right? So we want to kind of dispel that misconception. And then we need Purva Paksha. Purva Paksha is kind of studying the other side, so that you can counter people effectively, right? Playing defense all the time doesn't really help. We need to be established to a point where people have enough knowledge, people on the other side have enough knowledge that they don't come at us with colonial tropes, right? I mean, a lot of misinformation was spread about about Indians, Hindus, and the Indian society at the time of the British colonization of Bharatam. So we have to, fight that. Right? We have to dispel that, and it's still being played out today, right? If you go to any conversation, I mean, there's a lot of uproar about all this H1Bs and all that stuff. You look at any of the forums, you see in the comments that these same tropes keep coming up again and again. Okay. So anyway, so that's our kind of take and our intended contribution here. So I've kind of ran through the animation here, but let me explain what the slide is attempting to say. On the leftmost top, we have the dharma, artha, kama, moksha, right? This is the chaturtha, this thing, Chatvarha Purusharthas, 4 Purusharthas, which is like the human endeavors, human goals, right? So you have your Artha and your Kama. Artha is, you can think of it as wealth, security, and so on. Kama is your desire, things that you want to achieve, and ambition and things like that. And, you kind of, most of our life is kind of spent in this. It has to be in the framework, in the foundation of dharma. Dharma cannot be sacrificed while you are attaining artha or kama, otherwise it is not sustainable. Okay, so that's that, right? When we disseminate IKS to the crowd here, we will have a tremendous focus on this, right? So we want to make sure that the disadvantages of our kids are addressed. So we give them tools. the top right, we give parents the tools so that they can kind of build their families with the appropriate knowledge, and the next generation benefits significantly from that. But it also helps the adults kind of start services in the society. And then kids, we hope to over time give very logical and concrete explanations for everything that they have questions on, right? So we are building a lot of curriculum. We're also working with partners who have great experience in all of this. So this would be our kind of pitch for the KSI efforts. So with that, we come to this teachers training program, right? So you heard about initiatives for courses focused on Indic humanities, right? And then you also heard that there is a gap in the society related to Hindu services, Hindu focused services, and also subjects such as Ganita and Vijnana and so on. They're being taught in certain centers, even in the US, in certain gurukulams and so on. And that's fine, right? That kind of enables kids to learn and kind of build that skill. So keeping all these ideas and goals in mind, we did the teachers training plan, right? Which is what I'm going to share with you now. And let me walk you through outlines, and then towards the end, we'll look at all these different modules and what the structure is and so on. Right. So what is the goal? Comprehensive overview of IKS. There's a certain audience that we are targeting. What is that? We want older kids, like high school students, 14 plus years older, university kids, of course, and then parents. The goal is to train people eventually for entrepreneurship and teaching services. Of course, you can come attend the course, learn, and see how it suits you later on. It's not a must that you have to start an LLC and start offering services related to IKS right away. It's highly encouraged, but the training plan has been set up in that way. And then we give people foundational knowledge to enable research. And the curriculum goals are imparting foundational IKS knowledge. So first, we touch upon all these different topics that is listed in that first bullet there, right? Bharatiya education, history, and pedagogy, which is the approach of Bharatiya systems towards education, and how we view the importance of pedagogy. Science, math, yoga, karmakanda, panchakoshiya vikasa. Panchakosha is a framework through which you see the world, you see your body, see your mind, and so on. And it has to deal with multiple layers. So you address problems in different layers in order to bring overall harmony and happiness. Sanskritam, the language itself, right? Because much of our knowledge is in that. So that will be one of the modules. While we talk about Sanskritam, we will talk about non-translatables. And you may be aware of, things are changing. There is awareness, right? We don't say Atma is same as soul, and, idol is not the same as Murti, Puja is not the same as worship, and things like that, right? So we'll set up a class. We'll teach alphabets, pronunciation, spoken Sanskritam, but we'll also focus on the context establishment for how to study texts in Sanskritam, and then understand non-translatables. And then, ecology, environmental sciences, and social sciences. Relevance to modern pedagogy, right? There will be emphasis, especially in the later half, on trying to bring all this knowledge which are taught, foundational knowledge taught as part of IKS, and how it can be merged with modern education methods, right? Western education. Then the idea is we offer some unique perspective that only IKS brings to the table. Really, it's very unique. Research methods, right, and entrepreneurship. And we do want people to, students that sign up for this program, to definitely say, hey, I'm really interested in learning more about Ganita, or certain aspects of Ganita. And Ganita is, it spans everything, right? I mean, one of the Vedangas is the Chanda Shastra, which is it's basically Acharya Pingala's work, which is almost as old as the Vedas. And there is a lot of information on combinatorics in that, how different meters are created, and what is the schemes to represent the meters, and how people remember the meters and things like that. And some level of binary math has also come from there. But we don't want to muddle things here, but just to let you know, right, if people are interested in exploring that and kind of presenting it in the right modern point of view, that will be something that we'll encourage and help people take up. Similarly, with entrepreneurship, if you want to start like some kind of a service, right, for old people, young people, and weekend type activities and so on, that'll be something that definitely help with, right? Our partnership is with Anadi Foundation. It's a Gurukulam which is based in India. They have centers here, they have centers in India. They have excellent teachers from reputed institutions, and we are also going to partner with Gurukula.com. If you are not aware of this, I highly encourage you to please go look at it. I'll throw up some links towards the end of the presentation. Okay, and then KSI volunteers. Right. So these are the foundational topics. We already looked at the foundational one, and then Sanskritam. I spoke about the importance of understanding how to learn the Shastras, in the right context. If you know Sanskritam, and then Indic humanities. So we have many topics related to social systems, justice, and arts, aesthetics, social organization, civics, and some Western constructs. How we kind of understand things today at a high level, and how we can kind of parse that and see things in a slightly different light. It's more favorable to us. And then entrepreneurship and research. I already spoke about that. Again, the target audience kind of mentioned, slightly older kids, university kids, parents, and anyone in the community, right, who really wants to kind of take up some efforts to teach, kind of offer their services. Duration is it's actually a year. It says 10 to 11 months here. Yeah, maybe it's more accurate. I think maybe 10 to 11 months is more accurate, because there will be a break during summer since people will be traveling. The delivery model it's going to be hybrid. We have a 1.5 to 2 hour class roughly every week. The start date is Saturday, February 1st. It's coming next Saturday, actually. And the exact time is not fixed, but we have spoken to the teachers in India from Anadi Foundation, who will be teaching the first half of this program. It's going to be early AM, which is like, anywhere from 7 to 7:30 or 8, latest by 8 AM Central Time. It'll be like an hour and a half to 2 hours. Classes will be recorded, of course. We don't want you to miss any classes, because the classes will include engagement with the teacher. It will include assessments, homeworks, and things like that, and discussions, right? When I say hybrid, right, so there is online, and then we have a brick and mortar facility here in North Austin by Pond Springs, where from time to time we'll meet for discussions, okay, and clarification. So people will meet as groups. It's just anytime a group wants to go initiate, it's like, hey, even if it's 2-3 people, doesn't matter, right? We're kind of keeping it flexible right now. It may become more structured as we go on and see the interest, but we want people to come face to face, explain what they understood, kind of note down any questions that they might have, so we can take it back in the next class to the teacher, and then get those clarified. Okay, so that's why it's hybrid. So the idea is, right, you have your classroom time, and then you'll have your face-to-face networking, community building time. Okay, and that's a sign up link again, the outcomes are IKS has a certain connotation. It has a definition under the ambit of National Education Policy 2020, established by the Indian government. But we do want to take it a little bit beyond that and kind of blend it with humanities. We want to contextualize all this knowledge and information for Indo-American communities, and then the empowerment of individuals so that they can kind of start institutions and offer services. This becomes very, very key for us as part of this, because you can always watch videos and you can always watch training here and there. I think we are intending to go to the kind of next levels to actually implement it and be of use to the society, and help start those types of services, right? Again, our team, right? So the first half of this slide is things that we have spoken about, right? We do want innovation through IKS. Look at that bullet, right? It says Ganita-based educational alternatives, right? So there's so much information on Ganita. There's a lot of research that's happening, but it's all restricted to small niches and small conferences that most people are not aware of or can't parse that information. So we want to kind of break that barrier so that people can. It's like if somebody is really interested in understanding Ganita and eventually launch something, they should be able to, right? It may be like a multi-year process, and we understand that, but we do want to take people towards that. And then our team, right? We're a group of diverse educators. We bring a lot of expertise and passion. We have in Anadi Foundation, we have teachers from IITs, and Gurukula.com is a fantastic resource. It's run by my friend Sriram, who lives in Orlando. And we bring, like I said, very diverse expertise, right? Different disciplines, right? I've been a Sanskritam teacher, and other people are AI researchers and aesthetics. Some people have masters in social sciences and things like that. So there's a lot of expertise amongst us, right? And also our traditional engineering degrees and so on, right? So parents, we want to be able to enable parents to look at IKS, know where to contextually place that information, and be able to teach it, kind of bring it into their own families and their own circles, right? Teachers, right? Anyone who wants to build tools and approaches to teach IKS topics, right, should be able to do it. And then entrepreneurs, of course, right? Once you want to, now teachers and entrepreneurs, right? Sometimes you want to, as a teacher, start a business and offer services. But this entrepreneur specifically talks about starting services for the Hindu community, right? And then students and young adults, of course, right? Build confidence and understand where they come from, and maybe as time passes, kind of counter all the biases against the community, and make places safe for everyone, right? So it's approximately a year-long training, as we saw. We will have assistants locally. We will relay questions. We'll get the whole thing is going to be constructed so that there's no you'll never be left wanting for like, hey, I had this question but nobody answered. At some point it'll be answered. Okay, I will make the best effort to do that. The cost of the program, it's a full program. We don't have offerings that are kind of split into different modules at this point. The cost is $250, and then this includes paying a nominal fee to the teachers from India. The volunteers here are not getting paid. Anyone from KSI or even from Gurukula, there will be no payment for them. We've taken into consideration a lot of programs that are similar, that are offered over an entire year. and then we came to this amount, and it's being pretty much offered at cost at this point. Okay, so because we do want to get started, we want to see the interest in the community and kind of build year after year from this point on, right? Our partners, again, we have Anadi Foundation, and they've tremendous experience. They're already consulting with a lot of different universities and so on about IKS. So we've asked them to craft a specific curriculum for us, and they're working with us on that. They will provide the teachers for the first half of the program. And then on the right, we have gurukula.com, which is a platform that, this is the logo. I encourage everyone to go download this. They have tons of stories and comics and videos and things, and all from authentic sources, because Sriramji, who runs gurukula.com, is also a Sanskritam scholar. So he goes to the originals and he does translations into, and he has an army of like about 100 plus volunteers that both translate into various languages, but also run courses that teach. So the platform itself is extremely useful, and we hope to leverage it at some point. Okay. So with that, I'm going to kind of stop and actually, you know what? Let me just share with you some. These are the different modules that we spoke about. It's kind of small. So Bharatiya education, and then Vijnana, Ganita, Nakshatra Vidya. This is what we would call astronomy. And then Panchakosha pathway. This is understanding how well-being is brought about by kind of understanding the Indic framework of different layers of the body. And then this is the Karma Kanda. This is all the puja vidhi, homa vidhi, how to do simple things like applying a tilakam. What is the concept of cleanliness, like shaucha? Because shaucha is it's one of, in the definition of dharma, shaucha is one of the components, right? If you leave things unclean over a long period of time, dharma, which is basically sustenance, right? Anything that can be sustained, can be held, that is going to crumble, right? You're increasing entropy in the system by leaving things unclean for a long time. So that's why we want to teach people like the basics of this and see things in the same way that the Shastras expect us to know these. And then yoga, and a little bit of Sanskritam, and then more Sanskritam here. And then we have a lot of topics related to Indic humanities. I just want to kind of give you a glimpse of that. And then research, and then specialization, right? The specialization is going to take a long time because you'll be kind of connected or tied to other researchers, and that'll help you study and go into the depth of the topic, right? One of the things in Indic humanities, right? I mean, these are some of the topics that have been proposed right now, right? So the comparative analysis, and challenging binary frameworks, and then how to study itihasa, Purana, what is their context in our life, how to view it. It's not just a bunch of stories, right? If there was just a bunch of stories, everything would have been clubbed as itihasas, right? So what is the difference, how to view it? And then Dharma Shastra, Natya Shastra. Natya Shastra is your aesthetics. And in fact, I just heard that one of the foremost exponents of Natya Shastra, Dr. Bharat Gupta, has been awarded the Padma Shri just today. So which is a really good news, right? And then future of education, right? How do you create knowledge? How do you sustain knowledge? What is the teaching methods? What's the importance of that, and so on? And then dharma, especially the Kshatriya dharma, how to view artha, kama, and dharma in Hindu traditions, and then distortions of some of the heritage, and how we can overcome those, and systematically study some of these things, right? So as you can see, we've kind of put together a nice holistic view of everything that can be we think about. If you look at that chart that we saw earlier on IKS, we are kind of touching all these important points and help you kind of make those interconnections as you go along and you want to specialize and maybe start your own service and so on. Okay, so what I'll do is I will stop sharing right now, and let's maybe take a few questions. Sorry, I went way past my intended 25-minute mark. Hopefully you got a good idea of what we are attempting to do here. So yeah. Yes, Rohitji.
I have, by the way, 8 to 10 questions. So I don't want to hijack the session. So I will let anyone else to first ask the questions, because if I start asking, then others
Okay.
left behind.
Okay, that's considerate of you. Yeah. Yes, Anuji.
Namaste, everyone. So I'm a Ganitam Acharya at Agastya Gurukulam. And right now we are dealing with the elementary kids this year. So my question is like, how would this course help me with passing on the knowledge to the students and learning by myself?
Okay. So you said you have a background in Ganita,
Yes.
and you're wondering how the course will help you with other things. Like I didn't quite get the gist of the.
So how will this course help me integrate with the mathematics that I teach at school? Art school is actually Sanskrit immersion school, but we haven't yet started integrating both the Sanskrit concepts in math. We are in the process of doing it.
Mhm.
So basically, I joined this to understand how I can do it. If I do this course, what are the advantages to me?
Okay. So Anuji, yeah, of course, Ashwinji can answer too, but let me first parse your question, right? So I think you saw the intended outcomes of this program. The idea is to kind of, I mean, if you already have that Ganita background, if you're set on that, then
Chaitanya, है ना?
then we have to find a way to help you specialize and disseminate that, or start a service or something like that. We are not, the program itself is not going to, it's not a replacement for a gurukulam, right? I know about Agastya Gurukulam, and I know parents who send their kids there. This is not that, right? This is to enable teachers to do what they would like to do. It looks like you're already you've already started on that path, correct? Now if you want to kind of learn more about nakshatra vidya or ayurveda or yoga or karma kanda and things like that, that would be something new for you in this course. I don't know exactly what the Ganita syllabus is in Agastya Gurukulam and what your eventual goals are, but we can definitely discuss that. And is Arunji here? I don't.
Yes,
Yeah. So if you want to kind of take that and kind of help answer that, Arunji, I think that will be helpful.
yeah. One aspect I would like to say, though, in the introductory modules, you may have some of the fundamental concepts that you've probably heard of in the past. But what I would like to also emphasize is that the person who's actually teaching this is a subject matter expert, and he spent a good 5 years just doing his PhD in this field. So you should be able to not only hear perspectives that you've probably not heard of in the past, but there is plenty of opportunity to actually, in the last 6 months of this program, to do your own independent research in collaboration, with some of the scholars that we have access to. And this topic is vast, right? I would say that my sincere, humble opinion is that if you want to do a PhD, even in the realm of combinatorics as it's related to Ganita, you can go ahead and do that. There is so much information and content over there. So it all depends on your level of interest and how far you want to take this. But then there's also this other possibility of like, what can you do creatively with it? How can you apply it to streams like in the context of aesthetics in humanities, right? And do interdisciplinary work, come up with good interdisciplinary curriculum for your educational programs. Those are all things that you can potentially string together and achieve through our program, because we are also very much into like showing the interdependencies, and also like bringing this interdisciplinary perspective as a part of this entire training program. So that's just to give some context over there.
Okay, thank you. I got it. So, like, is this geared for the elementary teachers or for the high school teachers? Because the thing is, like, I haven't started um integrating the Indian knowledge system, like the Ganitam that is passed on to the actual mathematics that is taught. So, my goal was to learn something from this course, like if it's useful for me. Do they teach how the math concepts as taught by the Vedic math? Is there anything, is there any component, something like that in this whole program? Or is it a mixture of different modules which you were mentioning?
So if you see the evolution of thinking, right? So if you like split it up into different eras, let's say you start from about like, um, you know, 1200 BC or so, and then you start moving through it, you'll see different types of evolution. So one is like, you'll see things that are very geometric in nature. From there, it actually goes into, this entire focus that you have on deriving the relationships, with the geometric aspect, and then it just goes into like sequences and series, as well as your trigonometric understanding, and then its relationship as it was derived with uh, aspects of astronomy, and then it goes into concepts of approximation functions. So it's like a vast evolution, right, which took like century after century after century to build on. But then there are also like very unique pedagogical aspects of it, which are also tied to how it was delivered, how it was represented, which are still unique in the context of knowledge, as you could even see today. So it all comes down to like, how do you want to utilize it? And then if let's say you even delve into aspects of combinatorics, there are many unique pointers that you actually get from Ganita, which are still very beneficial today also. And you can actually design a lot of your curriculum based on these topics, beyond what you're probably incorporating within Agastya at this point of time. Now,
Okay.
when it comes to like elementary school versus high school versus middle school versus like university level stuff, um, I would say that it's left to you. In the last 6 months of a program, are helping you enable, or helping to enable you to like customize that experience so that you can like address a target audience that you are interested in to actually build out the program that you want to, and will provide you the resources and the people who will assist and help you out in that process.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay. Ashwinji, did you have to say something?
Pretty much what Arun Mahoday mentioned.
Okay.
So we have the subject matter experts. We also have the Anadi Foundation Ganita series books, and also we are going to have in the library we have the resources on various mathematics, various geometry and sutras, all those physical copy if you are in Austin, but we plan to even digitize it. So if you're not in Austin, you cannot access the library. So within a span of few months, it will be digitized copies so that you will be able to access. And they have been procured from Bharat,
Mhm.
those sets of books. Like
Mhm.
combinatorics, and various Ganit books. Yeah, and the subject matter experts are also in Bharat Anadi Foundation, and they so the way they teach is make sure that we understand all the concept which the students learn here, but in an indic way, more intuitive way. It is developed first from geometry and then algebra. That is instead of
Mhm.
going algebra to geometry, but every concepts in an indic way, going from geometry to algebra. But yeah, though as mentioned, it will be like eventually uh, because in this series it will be touch based, but during the last 6 months, you can you can further go in depth of the subject matters which you choose.
And the other thing I'll also add is that, through Dr. Surya Narayana, who's from IIT Bombay, right? He did his PhD there. They also like collaborate very deeply with other experts from the IITs. Like you also have Professor Aditya Kolachna. I hope I'm pronouncing his name the right way. Um, who actually has been publishing a lot of papers in this field. And part of the exercise is that we'll also, help you like dissect, some of that content, and then um, in your like guided self study, and you can pick like a subtopic that you're interested in, and you can build on it. There can be many outcomes. Like, what about thinking about something that's better than Kumon, for instance? um, Apart from like picking a subtopic and then studying it, finding the interrelationships between Ganita and aspects of aesthetics, for example, right? There are many possibilities that we can work on, and we'll be happy to customize it based on what direction you want to take in the future, especially in those last 6 months.
Okay. Rohit ji?
Yeah, I have one follow-up question with respect to what Anuji asked. Is basically what I am understanding from the IKS is basically it is complementing it instead of substituting it, right? So the
Yes,
kids will continue to go to the schools and they will receive the traditional way of knowledge,
absolutely.
maybe in Ganit or humanities or whatever subjects. And then we will also teach them the Indic way of point of view. So based on your experience, how the kids fare along with respect to new techniques? Do they find burdensome to adopt in their routine, or do they feel yes, it is making their lives easier and they are okay to spend some extra time? So these are all theoretical at this moment, and I'm looking from some practical understanding how kids so far have been faring along with the indie concepts, given they have to spend time on activities, given they have to spend time on the school and their homeworks, as well as the traditional knowledge on which we are not substituting it. So how the overall effectiveness works for the kids across the board?
So I would say like maybe I'm a case study of this, as someone who didn't grow up in Bharat and has been like outside Bharat all of my life. Um, so what I can say is that um, especially in the American university system, starting off, with undergrad or like late in high school, I did feel that this type of approach has been deeply complementary to my understanding, because like even if you go to UT Austin, where I'm an alma mater from, um, if you go into the Plan 2 honors program, so typically like a very bright student from high school would normally get into the Plan 2 honors program, where you are actually exposed um, to what is essentially called as liberal arts, and then you choose a discipline, whether it's either business or engineering, as your hard discipline over there. So that's what like students who are highly talented and they see them as a future leaders, they kind of push them to do that at a place like UT Austin. And the same concept is even there in the Ivy League schools like Harvard and other places. Now, the thing is that much of the liberal arts education that is given to you, it's all based on a Greco-Roman framework. And even what you call as like, South Asian studies or, they are also very much constructed with a Eurocentric view or a framework. And that's really what is taught to you. So actually having a well orchestrated, well thought out Indic framework not only complements your intellectual journey, like when you are exposed to these Greco-Roman frameworks as well as like Eurocentric ideas, you are not only self-confident, but at the same time, you have a lot of unique viewpoints which you can actually contribute. It not only aids research, but it can also aid, let's say, like new policy outcomes in the future if you want to take that direction, or if you just want to be creative in bringing your perspectives forward. It does a very good job. So that's one aspect, right? The other thing is that looking at the type of work that's coming out, from professors like from people like Professor Aditya or Dr. Surya Narayan and other people, we feel that there is tremendous room for new innovation with it, not just in the entrepreneurial space, but also in terms of like, if you want to just do research, then you can contribute a lot in that avenue. But even pedagogical methods for teaching, learning, and that complementary experience is tremendous. Now, the other thing I can also say is that whether it's in like disciplines of psychology, disciplines of aesthetics, in the Western world itself, you have over 100 PhDs who actually research and study these fields, and and a very, very small fraction of that actually is comprised of Indians themselves. So that's also on the statistic to like consider.
Got it. Yeah, thank you so much, Arunji. I'm fully sold on IKS because I myself actually read Ayurveda and so many Indian knowledge system stuff. But the only challenge that I feel is it is tough to influence kids to go read about them. I'll tell you one example. Sorry to hijack the session, but I just wanted to share on a candid basis like what I feel with my kids. And my goal of enrolling into the IKS will be mainly to learn the tools so that I can be a better teacher for my kids. It's basically whenever they get to read about the books, they have their own stories around Barbies and whatnot. But I want them to actually learn about the stories of our epics and learn from them. But it is very hard to influence them because the way the entire school ecosystem works, it is the one mindset they are pushing where they feel like going in this direction, going with the Halloween, going with the Barbie culture and whatever is something they need to do while they are still young. Like my daughter is 5 years of age, but I feel like I need some learnings based on the feedback, based on the past experiences, so that I can better educate my kids and then also think about building an incubator as well. So my next follow-up question also was like, do we have the examples of successful KSIs from which we can learn upon?
Okay, brilliant question. In fact, the reason why we started Knowledge Systems Incubator was just because of those questions that you are asking. We have been asking the very same questions ourselves. I also have a daughter who's about 5.5 right now. And I can give you some perspective from AI research, that I've been working on. So one thing that I can say is that even as human beings, right? If you really think about the amount of time that you're absorbing information. So if I say that I use a crude analogy that you are a neural network at the end of the day. It's a crude analogy. It's not necessarily fully factual, but it's an analogy. What I'll say is that yes, if you are exposed to about 18 hours of content, which is literally like what you're describing, right? Like that's what your daughter is being fed. That's even true even with my daughter too. Then your perspective will be built on whatever content you are exposed to. So the only real airtime that we are actually able to give our children is a couple of hours in the evening. As sad as it sounds, by the time you're done with your daily activities and you get home, it's already probably like past 6 o'clock. And then you have a couple of hours to like talk to your child and interact with them. And in that time also, the amount of quality learning experience that you give them is even fractional. That is the core root cause of the problem. So if I were to go tell my daughter, for instance, like, let's start learning some basic Sanskrit alphabets. We have a beautiful oratory larynx system, and it's connected to the alphabets in Sanskrit. Vocalization is truly an interactive art. Um, my daughter has resistance to it because the only thing that she's learned, from early in the morning till the evening, is one system of language, right? And so there is a mental resistance to it. And in fact, um, the real challenge is, can we actually give focused time in the evening, which is structured, and it can be guided learning for the children. So unless, like, let's say we have really good after school programs, whereby we are actually doing this in a complementary way, the aspect of learning will be stymied. I mean, there are no two ways about it. So one of the things that we want to do this year is actually try and develop, through that incubator process, good after school programs that we can actually give to our children, where we have this type of complementary framework. Some of the other ideas are also like, the concept of a nanny too. You have like 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds. Most of our Indian parents, like, we are probably in tech, we have busy careers, and you do pay like, $40 or $50 an hour, and you do get a nanny. But what is the content that a nanny is delivering to your child, right? Now, one of the ideas was like, could you actually come up with an IKS trained nanny who's actually able to like deliver systematic knowledge, and make it interactive and fun for those children, right? But we don't have any examples of people who even have like the fundamental ideas of like how to do this. So you need a system whereby you're able to like give these fundamental concepts, and if you're a service provider, then be able to provide services using a certain knowledge base. And so like our entire practicum aspect in the last 6 months of this program is directed towards like saying, okay, I'm a good service provider. I have skills, let's say, in psychology and mentorship. Now, with this IKS knowledge, can I actually bring about like, targeted experiences for the children that I deal with, right? That could be a program itself. I could be a teacher, it's a different experience then. If you're running a preschool, like, how do you rethink the preschool curriculum with respect to IKS? And how do you integrate that? We also have this case where a lot of Indian women today, especially here in Austin, are running their own preschool. And if you go to Houston, you will actually see large preschools that are run by Indian women. It's amazing that this trend was not there 20 years ago, but it's happening today. And so if you actually bring in a really strong preschool curriculum with IKS infused in it, it's a game changer in that sense. So these are all the type of opportunities that are possible once you establish the fundamentals and you kind of have this interdisciplinary program that's put together, and then you kind of enable people by training them with specialized content and knowledge through the incubation process. So someone had to do this systematically, and that's where we thought of this idea, and we have connected with experts who are very happy to help us out through this process. And then we can facilitate the community together. And that's really the vision with which we are progressing over here.
Got it. Thank you so much, Ji. This is very useful to understand the systematic approach. One last question here. Let's say it's a 1-year program, and sometimes you do get busy and you have to watch the videos, and then you get some follow-up questions. How do you think is the right way of collaboration? Because it's sometimes you get questions and you need to have a discussion in terms of various use cases as well. So do we have any kind of forum or any way through which we can collaborate live or async for the teachers?
So the way we are going to do it is we have a network of people. So you can set up time for a recitation session, and one of our instructors will come in and they will interact with you to like clear out your doubts, go over the concepts. And then the other thing is that when you get into a research phase, we'll probably tag you with a buddy, depending on your interest, and then you can develop and build on that. And if you feel like, hey, there is a specialized topic, I want to learn more about this, we'll find you the resources and tag you in. But during the initial learning process, we'll have recitation sessions, and you can join in over there, or you can, schedule time for a recitation session, and there'll be someone to help you out. Apart from this, we also have a brick and mortar facility that we took thanks to generous donations from our community members. And over there, we also plan on holding additional seminars and events, and it could also be a center for you to come and collaborate with other people who are interested.
Thank you, Ji. I'm good here.
Anuji? Anuji, you had a question?
Sorry. This is actually connected to Rohitji's question. So you said that the last 6 months is a research phase. So is it the phase during which we can design the program that is suitable to the elementary kids? That's what was explained, right?
Yes, Anuji. So if your interest, right, is coming up with a program for elementary kids, whereas Rohitji's interest might be to start an enterprise, right, to solve some of the challenges that he has. So he'll be on his own track, and you'll be on your own track, and we'll provide you the resources to help complement your journeys. That's really how it's going to be. What I'm trying to say is that sometime like in February, I'll also invite you to come to and see our library at the facility. The content is so vast. Okay. In fact, I think we can literally get multiple PhDs out of this process. There is enough content to do that. But the thing is, for your specific interest, we can customize it, tailor it, and then put you on a journey whereby you'll be able to develop on that. That's really the intent, and that's where we are a little different from a conventional school, which will where you have an instructor delivering things and you're receiving it. Here, maybe that's the case in the first half of the program, but in the second half of the program, it's going to be very collaborative in nature, and it's to enable you to either incubate an idea, to do research, or if you're just purely a teacher and you want to work on teaching methods, then we can also work on the track with you.
Okay. So this is perhaps my last question. So I'm not that much exposed to any of these subjects. Will this be at the beginner level?
Yes, we are going to assume that we all are starting from level 0. And the reason is that, systematic learning about IKS, well, we have not done it through our K-12 journey, nor most of us have done it through university also. And then this interconnected, interdisciplinary way of looking at it is something that's relatively new, and which is only being done by PhD scholars at institutions at this point. So bringing this perspective, it's going to be new to almost all of us. And you can use this opportunity to kind of learn things this way and collectively grow with it. So don't worry if you're, this is all new. It's meant to be new. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing this. Yeah.
Thank you. So just the Austin sessions, are they mandatory? Because I live in Houston. So are they mandatory, and how often do we meet in Austin?
So Austin brick and mortar facility, well, so the thing is that we can do all of this online. Okay. Nothing prevents us from doing it online. The purpose of the brick and mortar facility, like how we envisioned, was twofold. One is we can invite people to come to the brick and mortar facility, present their findings, interact with more people. And the second thing is it could also be an avenue where you can have in-person recitations, but if you can't do it in person, we can also do it online. And through COVID, we have been doing this right at our work and everything. So today, technology permits it.
Okay, thank you.
DCG?
Yeah, but thank you for taking my question. Mine's actually a two-part question. Number one is there any market research that's being done that sort of exposes more of the challenges we're facing? Me personally, I'm trying to connect with my own very micro community across the North American population. I'm trying to revive an old script with a group of people, with Indian researchers. I've been having tremendous trouble just hitting all the people, even though there's membership and everything else. So the script is only less than 200 years old. It's a Samaraseni script. So in that sense, I'm having trouble. Like this population speaks the language, but it doesn't actually write it. But the writing is there. It's sort of taken its turn like through the century, a couple of centuries. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is that kids versus parents, it almost feels like we are, as Indians, we all have the same sort of challenge, like what you said, Tarunji. Parent to kid, especially in elementary, keeping them engaged, or even because of the time span and the attention and the time period you have through all the other activities and everything, that's like just part of the daily routine for kids, right? But it almost feels like if the parents didn't do their job, like from the time they're like 2 or so, and then by the time they hit like maybe through kinder, literally between 2 and 6, they lost the kid, I think. So to me, I feel like I'm always going back to the parents rather than the kids, because the moment you lose between 2 and 6, or maybe even 8 max, right, you lose the language already. And then that's that. I'm not trying to blame the parents. I'm just saying what I've observed, right? Luckily for my son, we have one son, and then he's been speaking because that's how we spoke. So luckily he's caught, and then he also learned Sanskritam. Luckily, thanks to us in Sanskrit Kendram and everybody else in the community were so kind to even have a form like this pre-COVID, and then even post-COVID, and SAF will also help. So given that structure, I think I've been sort of lucky in that sense. But a lot of other parents, they lose the kids, and none of the kids actually are speaking, the mother tongue, that is, right? Let alone be Sanskritam or any other language, right? Foreign language. They go to Spanish after middle school, high school. That don't count, right? And then they come back, even high school or after high school, they wonder how they can connect back to the roots. So we already lost the kid, right? So bringing them back after a long loop of vacuum, that seems to be the challenge. Let me bring my question back again. Point is, it seems like we always have to constantly educate the parents of young kids rather than try to address the kid, after reaching middle or high school. And that's how I feel. But again, that's what I'm asking. What's the market research like? It's an incubator. We have a potential way of doing things, but there's got to be some research that says, like, melting communities. There's a reason why it's a melting pot, right? And I know we're trying to defend the whole thing, not be on the offensive, just like the way it was mentioned on the slide. It's a perfect analogy, because this is an offensive game. IKS, I feel like it's an offense, not a defense game. So with that said, so with this part that I just mentioned here, with the parent, targeting parents is one way of doing things, right? And then capturing kids after the teachers are, inducted, certified, so to say, after a year of thing, right? And then you have to find a curriculum or an avenue to reach the after school program at a public school or something. Ideal. But I think the acceleration, as you mentioned, will be in AI. Nanny or nani or dadi, right? An educated dadi, that is, right? So I think that's a leaps and bounds of skipping all the parenting blah 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 mess, right? And lack of time, so-called lack of time, right? So I think that's an amazing sort of time and space travel and try to reach the kid's brain, ahead of time. So I like that. Really, that idea is like amazing in terms of applying AI some way. Um, I think there's a lot of work to be done on that part. I'm not sure where things belong. So I guess the market research and the parent target seems to be the immediate short term, and then teacher, I'm just assessing. I'm trying to speak what I just learned so far, trying to see how I can apply this and how can I make it real. I'm just speaking my mind. So I truly appreciate everything you guys have shared so far. I'm still thinking through how I can apply myself to help the community at large, not just me, because my personal knowledge is only very limited. It's not going to help anybody unless I find a way to apply in the community to do something, right? So that's the way I'm thinking right now.
So the question is there a market research, a study, something like that, where you can hardbound market research study? So I think it's a very good question. You might have known that there is a Hindu university. It's already established, right? And there are many institutes that are spawning. Precisely what's the question? Is there a market for what we're doing, right? So is there a market? The question should be like, is there a market for yoga and mindfulness meditation? Is there yoga for Indian classical music and classical dance, right? And then are there people that actually look for slightly deeper connections to their heritage? The answer is yes for all these things. So this is the common hub where all these expressions of, be it art forms or research, even technology for that matter, or language sciences, they all have to be connected in a certain way. And so the market for those studies is going to be the market for these too, but it enters the market in a different way, which is going to be a systematic way, right? So there are multiple ways of looking at things. Precisely, is there a market study report, that you can download as a PDF and then read? No, but probably, we should do that thing if you are interested, and if you're passionate about that thing. There is an entrepreneurial track for that thing. We want to encourage these kind of questions and studies for that matter. That there itself is a great idea. Why can't there be market research studies, given that there's more than 1 billion people? 1 in 6 is an Indian, and of course, very, very recently, Austin Shakespeare, a company here which did only classical plays, is currently venturing into Mahabharata. So why are they doing it? Because there is population here. So therefore, yes, these are. We don't have something called as market research studies. We want to have that thing, and that itself is an entrepreneurial idea right there.
Thank you.
Yeah. And we would love to facilitate that thing, actually.
Another fun fact, right? Okay, go to all the universities in the United States, and you have so many liberal arts departments, right? They're getting billions and billions of dollars of research funding, right? Harvard is predominantly a liberal arts school, and it has a massive endowment, and annually, the amount of research spend that's done is predominantly for the liberal arts aspects. Now, what fraction of that is actually being used to study the problems that actually face a Hindu child or a Hindu parent are here in the United States? We are the most I would say we are probably the wealthiest demographic if you go on a per capita income basis. But the amount of money that's going into researching our problems is almost minuscule. I mean, you don't even see a semi-decent paper on the challenges that pertain to Indian Americans or Hindus in the United States. But if you go and look at challenges that pertain to let's say the Jewish community and look at the articles that are published out of these institutions, you'll find tons and tons of it. And the reason partly is also because of the fact that those communities have been putting a lot of money back into the institutions and have been, directing a lot of the research, which actually tells them or gives them insights on, things that are impactful for their community, right? In terms of quality factors and so on. So we as a community are underinvested in humanities. That's a fact. And unfortunately, it's humanities that creates the next generation of leaders. Okay. And if we are not focusing and putting our frameworks into the picture and investing in them, then even the leaders that we produce through our community have like alien frameworks which they adopt, and mostly they're going to sound Eurocentric in nature when they come out. So they're going to adopt some other framework. So unless you invest and you create systematic avenues for learning, then you will still not be able to tackle that problem. So this initiative, for example, is more focused on like giving the foundational knowledge so that someone who enters a university or is doing research there can also sustain themselves and have enough fundamental knowledge so that they can go and dig in deeper, explore more, and stand with respect to their frameworks. And they'll also have a network of intellectuals with whom they can continue to collaborate and build themselves up. So it's really coming down to like investment, at the end of the day, into our own humanities, into our own frameworks, into our own personnel. And we have been underinvested and underserved in that regard. And that's a fact of life as of today. It's sad, but that's the unfortunate reality. I'll give you another example. You want counseling services. Go Google counseling services. If you can find Jewish counselors, you can find Christian counselors, you can find civil counselors. You have a problem at home with your spouse, right? But if you are telling me, hey, can you go find someone who understands your perspective, coming from the traditions that you're coming from, it's very, very hard to find someone who's qualified enough to provide that service to you. Go to a university. You're a struggling student. You need psychological counseling. I'll tell you, here in the Jewish community, you will directly get multiple counselors who understand that community's perspective, their problems, challenges. And in fact, they're not university appointed counselors, but they're community appointed counselors who have a seat at the university. I can take you to UT Austin and show you examples like that today itself. But you talk about our people, we don't even have anything like that. It's almost impossible to find it. So we are an underinvested community, and that's where you need community startups like this, which change the dynamic. But you also have to provide a base of knowledge, systems of learning, and so on. Luckily, we have a wealth of that. It's just that it needs to be delivered, and you need to enable people. And that's really where we are trying to come in, because this is an underserved, underinvested domain as we know it today.
Couldn't stop myself just to share one important thing. All these things which Arunji said, there is a famous author, Rajiv Malhotra. Just read his books and you will find a great deal of understanding.
Yeah, and as part of our library that Ashwinji was mentioning, right? Rajiv Malhotra ji's books are a treasure in themselves. So the entire collection will be available. We'll have collections on mathematics, the entire collection of P.V. Karne's Dharmashastra, and a ton of other books in English, Sanskritam, and other languages. So,
and just on Ganita, right? I'll invite you all to also come sometime, in the first week of February, and you can take a look, right from the geometry aspect all the way to combinatorics. It's mind blowing. What we found just doing like even the preliminary digging and research, we were blown away by the sheer depth of the content. And obviously, the facts are there on paper, so you can come see it, explore it, and experience it for yourself. And obviously, through our program, you'll also have experts, who have been doing research in this field for a while, and then they can also point you to a lot of what is state of the art even in the research domain as we're progressing.
Okay. Yeah, we've kept people way past our 1 hour mark. Thank you all for your patience. Thanks for the wonderful questions. We hope you all will sign up, and hope to see you all in the program. I think it's going to be fantastic. It's we're just kind of launching something, and we hope with sufficient support and demand and interest from the community, it'll really take off. And in a few years' time, this is really grow exponentially, and we'll have the kind of presence in the market that Arunji was saying we're missing today compared to other communities. Okay. Yeah. Thank you all very much. Namaste.
Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you.
Dhanyavad.
Namaste. Thank you.
Namaste.
Namaste ji.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dhanyavad
Thanks for
ji.
the info.
Namaste. Shubharatri.
Shubhratri. Okay. Nadia, you can stop the recording.
Give me 1 minute.